Hey guys, easy one today. We're going to take a look at what we're stepping into is how to work with files. So we're going to learn how to read data from a file, but we're also going to look at today how we can write data to a file. So instead of just having the ability to present our data on a screen, we can put that data on a text file of some kind and save that file. And so this has there's a couple of different ways to do this. This is kind of an easier way. There are other ways to write bigger sets of data to files. But yeah, let's get into it. So what we're going to use, so far, this is going to look a whole lot like the scanner class as far as how we set it up and how we use it. And so there's a class called PrintWriter that's in the Java API that allows us to write to a file. And actually, I say it looks like scanner when we set it up, yes, but we use it like we would use print and println. So the system.out class, the system class. So let's get into it. First, let's just jump down here to this main line right here. We're going to say PrintWriter because that's the name of the class, and we're going to make an object of the PrintWriter class that we can use. So if we were using scanner, we would say something like scanner input equals new scanner. This follows that same mentality, that same syntax. We're going to say PrintWriter, and then we give it a name. I like the name outFile. We're going to learn in a day or two probably how to read data from a file. And so if we're doing both in the same program, we're going to have to get creative with the naming of our variables here, of our reference variables. So I like to name, if I'm using both, I like to name my PrintWriter outFile, and my other one that I'm going to use to read from a file, I like to call that one inFile. And that's just me. You can call it whatever you want, and it might take a few uses to find a name that you like or that makes sense to you. But outFile is just what I use. Okay, we're going to say equals new. Let me go a little bit in depth into what this is actually doing. I've probably covered this already before. The new keyword, whenever you see that word, it's a very important word. It's super small, but it's very important. That word is the word that has Java actually create the object itself. So over here on the right-hand side, this is the actual object creation on this side. When we say new PrintWriter, you're telling Java, make a brand new PrintWriter object for me to use. And then you give it what you want or what it needs to exist. And what a PrintWriter object needs to work is the name of a file to put the data into. And so we're going to call ours outfile.txt. You can call it whatever you want. This is just an example. So you want to name it something that has to do with the data that's being put on it. .txt tells it it's going to be a text file. If you leave it blank, it will still work. However, it will create just a generic file. So for us, we're always going to want to put .txt. Make sure this is in quotes because it's going to take this in as a string. So that's important. Now, let me go to the other side of the equal sign. So this whole side, the new, that's what creates the object. The left side is not really the object. I'm going to try my best to stop calling it that. OutFile is not an object. OutFile is simply a variable. So whenever we write, int num equals 1, int is the data type. Same thing here. PrintWriter is a data type. We're telling it this is the type of data, or this is what I want to put inside of this variable. So outFile is what we call a reference variable. This is what's going to create the object in memory. A PrintWriter object gets put in memory somewhere. We don't know where, but we're going to attach its memory address, connect its memory address to a variable called outFile, so that we can keep track of where that PrintWriter object is in memory. Okay, next we're going to put some data on in the file. Okay, so we're going to use this PrintWriter object called outFile, and we're going to use it just like we would use system.out. So we're going to use outfile.println. So instead of system.out .println. We're going to say out file. We're going to use the name, the reference variable name, .println or .print or whatever. We can use formatting too. We can do printf, whatever we want to use. If we can, as far as I know, if we can use it with system.out, we can use it with a PrintWriter object as well. So, we could format it whatever we want and put it in here. The last piece that you must have is outfile.close. The .close method closes up the file, so it kind of, just says, hey, we're done, and it saves the data. If you fail to do this last, it will not save the file. You'll run your code, everything will check out fine, no errors. You'll go open your file and realize there's nothing there. So you must do the .close at the very end. You don't want to close it too early too. We may use a PrintWriter within a loop of some kind at some point. If you throw that .close inside the loop, it's going to cause you problems because the first time the loop runs, it's going to close the file, and then you're going to run into an issue. A couple extra things, and Eclipse is going to ding these two things to you. First is our import package. We have to import .io in order to use this. So IO input output. Since we're doing output, we need to import IO. I always do input IO asterisk so that I just import the whole package, everything that's in it. Eclipse is also going to yell at us to add a throws declaration. I'm pretty sure we've seen this before somewhere. What this does is it handles, we'll get into throws declarations way later, but what it does is it allows our program to handle any errors that we might get, such as we can't write to the file or something like that. Then it'll handle that exception. One thing to take note also, if this file name already exists, it's going to overwrite the data that's already in that file. If the file does not exist, it will create it. So that's something to keep note of, because we could easily overwrite data that we don't want to overwrite. Quickly, I want to take a look at an example of how this would look practically. So this is a simple program that's going to take in the names of some friends from the user. We're going to ask the user, so notice I also have a scanner. I can have multiple objects going on here. We should have another import up here. We do. Okay. So we're going to ask the user, hey, how many friends do you have? They're going to tell us, we got this many friends. Reminder while they're doing that, they're eating up the new line. So since we're doing an integer here, and it looks like we're going to a string input there, we got to add that extra input.next line to progress our scanner. So just a quick reminder about that. We see that only when we're going from a number input, so an int or a double, to a string, we have to do that. So we're going to ask them here for a file name. So we're going to look at how to do this a little bit different way. We're going to ask them for the name of the file that we want to use to print the data or to write the data. So here we'll see, instead of putting in, outfile.txt, we're going to let the user tell us what should go there. So we're going to take a string from the user, and they're going to tell us. The only thing here is the user needs to be aware that they're going to need to put .txt on the end of that string is appropriate. If they don't, like I said, it's not going to break. It's still going to write the file. It'll just be a generic data file. Here's how we might use this in a loop. So we've set up our PrintWriter object right here, and then we create a loop, and the loop is going to loop for however many friends the person said that they had. We're going to say enter the name of a friend. I'll just go ahead and run it so we can see it. So I'm going to say I have 3 friends because nobody likes me. And friends.txt. I'm going to say Mikey. I'm going to say Josh. I'm going to say Beth. Okay. And so as you can see, every time I put these names in, it's going to take my string, add it to a variable, and then it's going to do outfile.println and the friend's name. Now I could skip. Let me go ahead and finish this out. So I get no. You could put in an extra print statement here, like right there, that says data written successfully. And that just gives the user a little bit of feedback. So you can say, I have 3 friends, and enter file name friends.txt, Mikey, Josh, Beth, and you just give them a little bit of feedback that, hey, we're done. Outfile.close is going to close it up and save it, and I'll show you how to get it to show up over here in Eclipse. But I want to show you that we can skip this entire line of code. This is a string. So input.next line is going to get a string. This wants a string. Println wants a string. I can completely skip that line of code and do it just like this. I have 3 friends, friends.txt, and a reminder, every time I'm redoing this program, it's overwriting the data that I put in there previously. So notice that still works. So you can skip that line. If you like to put it in a variable and that makes sense to you, that's fine too. So, but it created this document, but let's talk about where it made it. In Eclipse, every IDE is going to be different, but in Eclipse, it's going to put it inside the package. So we create a new package for every chapter. So you should be in chapter 4, maybe you're still in chapter 2, whatever. But it's going to put it inside the package, not inside the SRC or the source folder. The source folder is usually where your stuff is going to probably show up. I've got a little bit more organization going on because I have a lot of files to take care of over here. But yours is probably right here, the default package, all your Java files. These text files are going to show up inside. These are not inside any other folder other than chapter 4. So if I close all that up, they're still there. But you'll notice that that friends file didn't show up automatically. That's not it. That's probably from last year. I capitalized mine. Oh, it didn't. It did show up. If your file won't show up over here in the list, here's how you can force Eclipse to make it show up. Because like I said, sometimes it won't pop up automatically. So let's do this. I'm going to take this back out because that's going to break it. Let's run it. I have 3 friends. I'm going to call it something different. Friends2.txt. And one second. I'm recording. Give me a second. Okay, so the data is written, and you'll notice that my file did not show up here. So I can right click and I can go to refresh. Right click on the chapter 4 folder and click refresh. And that usually forces it to show up.